So I'm going to kind of go off a little bit off the sheet on kind of the benefits of the Lite machine. But what I'm going to do today is also just make sure that everybody knows how to make sure it's charged, plug in the different components of the machine, and that way you can use it. So I want to make sure also that OT, all disciplines are utilizing it. So it's an expensive piece of equipment, and I want to make sure that we're all taking advantage of it. All right. So let's just go through the benefits. So benefits, Gait training can begin much earlier in the rehab process. So think about it, some of our patients are very low level. So we have the ability to kind of hook them up to the Lite and start the initiation of pre-Gait standing activities. These are things that we wouldn't have been able to do if we didn't have this machine. Also, proper and symmetric gait patterns can be developed and enforced. So when they're walking, you're going to facilitate them. I know in the past I've dragged a lot of people, and was it the prettiest? Probably not the prettiest, but this machine is going to be able to facilitate that in a more natural pattern. And then, like I said, the next one, just easier for the therapist to manipulate. Like I said, we've got to protect ourselves to make sure that we're going to continue to be able to treat these patients. So this will just put them in a safe environment. So less energy, the partial weight bearing is less energy for us and less energy for the patient. And then also think about it, these patients, they haven't gotten out of bed, they haven't walked, and so this is a benefit. I mean, think about the first day that you would be able to stand up or to be able to walk. This is just so psychologically encouraging and emotionally exciting for them. So the neuroplasticity, I've done a lot of research with this too. I'm not going to get into that today, but there is a lot of research done. You can go to APTA. You can also go to the Lite.com. So they give a lot of references for the neuroplasticity. So basically the restoration and reorganization of motor maps occur within the residual cortex. Motor recovery and plasticity are positively influenced by skill training. So this is what this machine's going to do. Next part, so treatment protocols. I want to make sure all disciplines this is important for. These are some of the things that we're going to go over after I go through the parts of the Lite. So pre-Gait activities can be done. So standing, pre-Gait, stepping up on a step, weight shifting, getting weight bearing, bilateral. Also, they were also talking about we can do sitting balance activities, on a ball. So the key thing is that we're always putting them in a position where they're safe. They're not going to go anywhere. And I think Satya was interested because when I first started using the Lite, I was terrified because I thought, oh my gosh, they're gonna fall. Like I'm gonna drop them. And she's like, once they're in properly, there's nowhere they're gonna go. So I think that's, everybody's got to get over kind of that fear in the beginning. Once you get them on, cinch into the Lite, get them onto the treadmill or over ground. If they're in safely with the harness, they're going nowhere. So it's just kind of a learning curve.
Once I put them in the harness, I tell them to sit down, and I'm like, try to sit down now. And that's how they know, like, they're not going to fall from that thing.
Yeah, actually, it's good for, the anxiety is both in the beginning when you first start using the Lite. I've done it a lot, so, my comfort zone is pretty good now. But the patients, you got to think about it. You're putting them in a position where they're uncomfortable and they feel unsafe. So like Satya just said, once I get them in there, I get them onto the treadmill, and I just have them sit and make sure that they feel comfortable. So that way, they're going to, otherwise your session's going to go horrible. So you got to make sure your patient feels comfortable. So even sometimes I recommend your first session is just standing on the treadmill and working on pre-Gait and just weight shifting. And then your next session, okay, they're like, oh, I'll do it again. And then they start with they're willing to try the treadmill. All right, so I want to make sure everybody knows all the components of the Lite. So let's go ahead and go through. You can turn the page. It's on the second page there. And I want to make sure everybody knows if there's a patient, even inpatient, bring them over. I'm more than happy to try some of these patients. Because a lot of these people are going to come to us eventually, and if you just want to work on some standing, which is a great activity for them, and be more than happy. And I know there's a lot of people that use it. I know Cam's done it a lot, Rebecca, Satya, Dee. So if anybody wants to utilize it, I mean, I'm sure Nancy would be more than happy to have us, block out a little bit of time to make sure we're using this equipment.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's take a look. So right here is what we call the yoke. This is where your straps are gonna be. All right, so yoke is right here. This component right here is the actuator. So this is controlled by this mechanism. Doesn't matter which one you use. There's well, how about we turn it on? So right here is our battery. Actually, the battery's on the other side. This is the way we control to turn it on. So, and I don't know, Nancy, if you can see.
I'm
it's
zooming
actually
in.
the brochure too. It's going to tell how much it's charged. So make sure when you turn it on that you look to make sure the battery is fully charged. So I think when we use it more on CRC, we have a pattern of making sure we charge it every Thursday. It just depends on the amount of use it gets. So, and I'll show you how to charge it also. So battery is right here. So to take the battery out, it comes out. And actually, Danielle, you want to just show them how to charge it? So there's two cords, and they both are labeled. Just in case you come upon it, you got to make sure it's not charged.
Do you keep the charger in a certain area, or does it stay with
Yes.
the machine?
So everything is going to be it's in a bucket.
It's in a bucket under that cart over
Yep,
there.
so all these pieces will be in the bucket over there.
So yeah, so this it's marked as gray box charger. So it charges the charger. So yeah, just plug this in with this one, and then this one here charges this right here.
So this is the BiSim, and we'll go over that in a minute. So the BiSim gets hooked up to here, and this also needs to be charged. So that'll go into the wall. So every Thursday, if we're utilizing it a lot, we'll just make sure that's charged. Does that make sense? All right, and this will be reattached to the BiSim. All right, so the actuator. Oh, you know what? Battery.
I was just gonna say.
See how it's like a tunnel? So it's going to go in and out. So that can go up or down. The Lite Gait, the handle thing, it's got an up or down buttons. You can use either one. It's just the different components. So, all right. So let's go ahead. Oh, casters. Okay, so the casters on the left are the total lock. These are where the braking actually happens. So when you put a patient on, well, let's go backward. So this is the locking component. On the left side is the directional locks. So the protocol is when you're using this on the treadmill, all the locks have to be locked. When you're using it over ground, the directionals will be locked, which are the casters on the left side, and then the brakes will be off on the direction. I'm sorry, I said it opposite. So brakes off on the left, and the directionals will be locked. So that this will be the steering aspect, but to get it to steer straight, you got to make sure these are on. Does that make sense? The brakes off. But if you're going on the treadmill, we used to do just the brakes on, but after reading up on it, it says all the locks have to be locked when you're on the treadmill. All right, let's go to the BiSim. So this is a scale. This is a component that kind of assesses how much weight supported assist you're unweighting the person. So I typically only use this to see the total amount that's unweighted. So, but I'm going to show you how, and it's actually in the brochure. So when you're going to zero out the scale, you're going to push the calibration, hold it, it'll zero calibrate, and then you press it again. And then it calibrates, so it's at zero. So, and you always got to make sure that the straps are on the harness, or on the yoke to
I'm just
calibrate
gonna
the scale.
Get closer to
So this is for setting the weight of the patient. Well, actually, this is calibrating out the machine to make sure you're at 0.
We do that for every time you start.
Yes, yes, you gotta do it, yes. So that way it'll calibrate it to 0 if something was funky. Now, I typically don't go to the next set. The next set is where you can actually put in the weight of the patient. But what I found, so if you go back down, let's go with changing settings. So to change the setting, you're gonna push the set button. Change settings, it says. Push it again, and then it's gonna cycle through. So it's gonna cycle through the weight unit, the auto shut off, and the patient's weight. Once you get to the patient's weight, it'll cycle through. It'll go up by 10 degrees, or 10 pounds, I'm sorry, 10 pounds. So you can increase the weight. How much you weigh, Danielle? Okay, I put her up to about 130. It only goes up at 10-pound increments. All right, so this bicep scale, so what it's gonna show you is your total, which is T, total weight supported, okay? So you can't go more than 40% of a person's body weight. So, you know, I basically do the math. Actually, Danielle, go on here. There is a graph that's kind of a bar graph, and it's a little off. So you can, if you wanna take a look at it, I'll show you in a minute once we get her on. But it kind of goes, I kind of took her up to about 50%, and it was actually a little more than what her 50% was. So so you know, do the math if you want to use the bicep scale. So it'll be the left, and then there's also on here it tells you the left and right, how much you're unweighted on the left and right side of the scale. So some of our stroke patients, we're going to want to be more unweighted on their hemiparetic side over the other side. By doing that, you'll be able to see it on the scale by unweighting this side.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Chaplain Sue. Please take a moment to join me in prayer. A reading from Psalm 30, verse 10. Hear us, Lord, and be merciful.
Can I ask a question?
You are our help. God of all, as we begin the second half of this day, refresh our spirits.
I don't typically
Let the
unweight one
light
side.
of your love shine through all that we say
I'll unweight
and
it to make it
do.
easier for them to get advanced.
We thank you for the blessings
So
that we
makes
have
sense?
been given,
Yeah. So
and we look forward to
typically
new
I just do the
opportunities
total unweighted,
as the day progresses.
but sometimes I'll
Amen.
readjust.
Have a
So
wonderful
if they're really weak on
afternoon.
that side, I'll pull down on that side, and I can show you with Danielle.
The strap.
To strap to kind of make it, and then it brings them up a little bit more. So you're a little more unweighted on that side. So you'll have and you can actually see it on this bicep scale. You'll have the left side or the right side. It'll tell how much you're unweighting them, and then there's the difference of how much from one side to the other. I typically just do the T, which is a total unweight. I don't know what everybody else does.
T, but I look, it also like when you can kind of switch between, and then you kind of see just when they're walking and they are going on their weaker side, how much the machine is doing for them too. So it just kind of shows like, okay, the difference side to side as well. So it's just kind of a good way, like, okay, the machine is really helping them a lot more when they're stepping on their weak side or whatever. So I use it just as a informational sometimes.
Yep,
but
me too.
in terms of documentation, I tend to do this.
It's just a total, yeah. So, and another thing is that when you get them on, that's when you're gonna see the total unweighted. You're gonna see a fluctuation when they start walking, so don't try to readjust all the time. Sometimes I will bring them up a little bit more, but don't think that maybe you've decreased the amount that you've unweighted, because that scale is gonna fluctuate a little bit when they start walking. So, okay, let's go down, emergency switches. There's an emergency switch on here. So typically when they're on the treadmill, I have the treadmill. I always have the safety clip. And then, never leave a patient on the treadmill or on the Lite Gait by themselves. So And then you also have the stop button here. And then the Lite has an emergency switch also, but I don't know where it is. It's okay, I'll look it. All right, so let's go down to, so max amount of weight is 400 pounds. So anybody over 400 pounds, no, don't put them on there. Maximum height is 6.5, a little over 6.5. And then the maximum percentage of weight supported assist is 40%. So you don't want to go over 40%. If you raise them up too much, I think we've all done this. They'll start kind of, they're kind of in the air. Their legs are in the air. So the purpose of this machine is actually to put, you want to get that hip extension. So you're going to kind of try to trigger your iliopsoas muscle. So if you don't get that hip extension, you're not going to be able to get that contraction to get the leg coming through. So, so just take a look at that. So no more than about 40%. Treatment frequency. I like to do it almost every day. Now I looked into a lot of research and it doesn't show, there's really nothing that shows that doing it 1 time a week or 5 times a week if there's much difference. But I feel like there's better carryover because my patients are, they see the improvement, they see the excitement. I don't know, Satya,
Actually, they've said like they need 20,000 repetitions to start getting a neuroplastic change. So that's why I do it every day because they get comfortable with it. They are on it more, and you're working on different gait speeds. You can walk further on a treadmill than you can do over ground.
Right,
so
that's the benefit. Yeah,
that's 20,000 steps you need to hit to get a change.
Look at a lot of research. I like that. I like doing it. I mean, it was just they were funky about it. They were saying they didn't, but I still think the neuroplasticity is incredible if you do it more. Another thing, treadmill speed. Start out slow and gradually increase speed to slightly faster than what the patient's gait pace over ground. So they're gonna be nervous in the beginning. Don't just kind of turn it on and go up to basically you want to get up to 1.5 to 2 miles per hour is where you're gonna get the central pattern generators with elongation of the iliopsoas. And then I thought it was interesting too that I don't do. So they basically you're trying to progress to no hands on the bars because you're going to kind of get that symmetrical reciprocal movement with the arms and the legs. So I think a lot of times we kind of have them hold on, but at some point we need to start having them trust and start getting those arms swing. So
they also say up to 3 miles per hour is normal gait speed. So
okay.
You want to get to at least 1.5.
Yeah.
But a lot of our people are so lovely.
Right. And then, so showing progress in your notes, you're going to gradually decrease the support, so less weight supported assist, or increase the speed. So, and then also research is showing that you need to carry over ground into a device. So we can do all this on the treadmill, but we need to make sure that it carries over to functional gait training. So make sure you're doing that. Okay, so partial weight bearing indications, you can read that. I mean, basically anybody can go on this machine. I went down and listed partial weight bearing contraindications. When loading the hip, pelvis, abdominal, and chest regions is prohibited. Skin graft or groin region, fractured ribs, large disc bulge or rupture. So I'm just going to let you guys kind of read those. So, and then let's go ahead and go on to Donnie. I'm going to go over the different harnesses. So, basically, this is our regular size. This is what I think we use a lot of is the blue one. So the key is to make sure that when you put this harness on the patient, it is snug. I mean, patients are not going to be comfortable in this device. I mean, they are comfortable. They get used to it, but it has to be snug enough. If you can get 2 fingers in there, the 2-finger test is what they said, then it's too loose. So making sure that and I have a lot of my men just making sure that just make sure that they kind of go into their area, kind of readjust, and then make sure the Y strap, which is the one underneath in the groin area, is comfortable for them. So, all right. So this is our sling. typically what I do before I put the sling on is I loosen all the straps. So preferred method is having them stand. That's the best method, the easiest method, not necessarily the best, but the easiest method. So if they can stand, actually let's do that real quick. So typically what I do is if my patient can stand, I already put the Lite Gait over the treadmill. Now remember, you can do this over ground too.
Have you found that patients prefer one or the other, over ground or treadmill?
I don't know. I feel like I'm a proponent of going treadmill because I feel like Satya was saying that I can get more distance on the treadmill than I can over ground. Not to say that over ground's not a great idea, it's just something that you can progress to. So, like we talked in the beginning, you know, work smarter, you know, or less, don't put as much energy in, try to work smarter. So I like the treadmill. I don't know.
It also gives them, like the guy I had on there today, he walked 889 feet.
They get so excited that they went that far.
Yeah, then I totaled it all up for him, like, he walked 1,200 feet today. He's like, wow, that's really far. He's only been walking like 200 feet.
And if you think about the neuroplasticity, if you're taking them only about that 100 feet again, then it's, you know, you're not getting the carryover. So, not that I don't think I think it's good too.
I think with our low level patients, it's easier to start over ground and get them comfortable with that first, but then once they're comfortable, I try to start on the treadmill.
That's okay. Okay. All right. So let's have you just do stand. So there is a small harness, small harness too. There's different Y straps. Y strap is really critical. That's the one that goes kind of in the groin area. Really critical because that's kind of where the weight is being supported. You're kind of supporting around the waist and then through the groin area. So we have the smaller sling, we have the regular sling or harness, and then these are the different Y strap attachments, and then we also have a spreader. So for some of our bigger people. So this goes in the front, so if we have a bigger person. So let's go ahead. Actually, I'm just going to put the sling on you. So obviously, let's do it the way I would do it on here. So go ahead and sit in the wheelchair. No, we'll bring it over here. So typically what I do is I bring the patient up in the wheelchair. So I have her sitting. I don't know if you guys want to come around so you can see a little bit. Also on the Y, strap the groin strap. I'm going to loosen that up also. So remember, this is the key to success, is putting on the harness correctly. All right, so she's going to go ahead and stand up. She's going to grab onto the bars. Let me make sure you guys understand too. This also moves up and down. So you can loosen this up. See what I mean? And these actually move too, so you can put them in different positions. Here's the kind of pull switch there. All right, so and usually I always have, in the first time I do it, I usually have 2 people with me. Just makes it easier. All right, so the lower strap has to be right around the greater trochanter. Okay, so when you put it on, you're going to cinch in the buckles first. And have your patient help you. Ah. Ah. Okay. I'm doing now is I'm kind of just putting it right at the greater trochanter. And it's the first one at the bottom. So what I kind of do is I kind of go back and forth. I'll do, because you want to make sure it's kind of even. So I kind of come in, I pull this way, and then I pull back. Usually our patients aren't this easy. All right, and then the Y strap goes underneath. So this is important right here. I know Satya always taught me, if this isn't tight, then you got problems. So cinch it down.
And that's why the sizing of that Y strap is important, because if you have it too large, it's not going to allow you to get close enough. So size it, like for her, it would be a small.
Yeah, so if
bigger
this.
guys would be extra large.
Yep. So then you would switch to the different Y strap. So yeah, so sometimes the first time setting up a patient just takes a little bit more time. All right, another key component is you want to make sure that the yoke, that the patient is about 5 to 6 inches from the top of the yoke. That just allows for a little bit more stability, so she doesn't have as much sway when she's up in the device. This is another component right here. It's got, you can loosen it to get a little bit of vertical play, or you can tighten it down and just make it static. All right, so typically then next, bring these down. So these straps go on the side. There's so much I want to tell you guys. I don't know, I think I'm going to run out of time. Okay, what do you think? Good? Alright, so Alright, at this point then I already have her standing. She's pretty safely in. I usually have another person on the other side, but in the beginning, but after I get to know the patient, so we're going to walk forward. This is where the patient kind of becomes a little uncomfortable. And then I have them step up, and then I stop right there. I usually cinch it down once I usually put the brake on again. And I'm going to go up just a little bit more. And then I'm going to cinch her down again. And then I bring her forward. And then once I've gotten to the end, put the brakes on. Alright. Good. And this is when I basically do, I look at how much total. So right now, and you know what, this is another machine. You don't have to wait, you don't have to have weight supported assist or partial weight supported assist. Sometimes I put patients on here and I cinch them in because they're impulsive and they're just unsafe. So I want the benefit of the treadmill, but I don't need necessarily the weight supported assist. So, and then I usually clip her in, and then I start the treadmill.
Can I add something,
Yep.
Sharon? So after this setup, this is when patients first time doing it, like what Sat said, I make them sit.
Yep, this is, yep.
Because I want them
Yep.
to trust it. I want them to trust sit and then say, if your legs buckle, I don't have to hold you, the machine can hold you, you're safe. So then they kind of, hopefully impact that you should be more confident taking steps.
Yeah, some of my patients,
Yeah.
and it's really good because even during the trials, I'll have them do a few different trials on there. And in between, I have my patients like, I mean, they're like hanging like a monkey. I mean, they're just kind of going around, which, you know, that just gives them the confidence that they can safely do this. So at this point, I just started gradually increasing the speed.
What does it look like on here? You said it'll show.
So here, I can show you if I weight support assist. So right there, she's at total, and there's a bar, the graphic bar. So basically, I already put in her weight. I put in 130. So that's probably an eighth of her weight.
Okay.
So, but I can up it. So I'm about at 20%, 20, 30% now. So 150, 130, so yeah. So it's kind of cool. It allows them to start walking before they can actually walk on ground. So, all right, I'm gonna stop you because I wanna make sure that we talk about the Freedom Dome. Any questions at all?
Can I point out one thing?
Yeah.
There's these little straps.
Oh, yeah.
Here.
Yep.
Were you gonna talk about them?
Yeah. Yep.
Just, they help facilitate the pelvis. I don't know if you guys have known that, but you can hook them up to.
Yeah, now where does it get hooked up to, Sad?
Right here, on these triangles.
Oh, okay.
So, depending on which side needs to be brought forward, it hooks up
It
to the
helps bring
triangle.
it forward.
And then the different lengths are the different tension. So like, this is a different length, this is a different tension.
Can you feel a difference, Danielle?
A little bit, yeah, with this side.
And then this also, I've never used this either, but this is so some people can't handle the growing attachment. This is kind of a thigh strap that will support them the same way. I've not used it. Anybody used it? Yeah.
Never seen
Probably
it
just
used.
stick it through it.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and stop.
Maybe Sharon, you can say to, if you wanna facilitate the stepping, and you don't have to hold them, and while the machine is going, and.
Yeah, so, right, a lot of times, sorry, yeah, that's another thing. So, yeah, so we have this hemiparetic leg or hemiparetic, arm and leg. So typically what I do is so if you were doing it on ground, you're controlling the trunk plus the legs. So at least here, they're stable right here, and then I can sit. This is another thing too, I forgot to mention. So many things on this machine. This thing comes off, and I typically will get a stool, and I can actually sit here, and I can put it on the ground or the step, and then I can be moving this leg and facilitating heel strike. So lifting up the leg. Because yes, just because we're unweighting them at 40%, even the amount that you're gonna weight on that side, they still may not be able to advance that leg on their own. Another thing, I did write it in the handout. There's different theories of thoughts about whether or not to put an AFO on or not to put the AFO on. From the research that I've done, it says it could go either way. I go either way also. It depends on the patient. If I'm struggling to get that leg through,
Yeah.
I'm gonna put the brace on until they can kind of facilitate that by themselves. So this comes off. I take this off a lot. What other big things am I missing? Because I was gonna go to.
Can you demonstrate it over ground?
Yep, I'm gonna do that next, and I'm gonna put on the Freedom Dome. So the Freedom Dome is another great device which I love. This is basically for more of our higher level patients, or it can be utilized to ambulate a patient with a walker. So actually, let's go ahead and come. Actually, I want to show real quick how to get the sling on. Let's kind of get you out and do real quick the sling as well.
The one thing about taking the sling off.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I got a lot to tell y'all. Okay, so basically, let me show you how to take this sling off. So I'm gonna keep it all attached. So the thing we gotta be concerned about is a vasovagal response. So make sure, so the wheelchair is behind. Okay, so I'm gonna bring her back. Keep these on, keep these attached. So I have to let you know, I've had patients, you know, kind of somewhat pass out with me on this device. So the best thing about it is that always keep them locked into the straps. So when they back up, they're gonna come down. Make sure you lower.
I was gonna say that's gonna be suspended.
So she'll step down, so you're lowering down the yoke. Okay, so I'll put the brakes back on. Okay, and typically what I do when I'm taking off the harness is I loosen the side sleeves, or the side straps. So if you're gonna get a vasovagal response, it's gonna happen right here.
And that way they're still hooked into the machine, so if they did pass out on you.
So I typically let them hang there for a few minutes, just make sure that they're feeling okay. And then if they're fine, then I can start undoing the straps. So I kind of undo the strap here, 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 and then the Y strap. All right, and then I just help them down. Yep. Okay, so say you don't have a patient that is this high level and that they can stand. So I'm just gonna do this really quickly. So basically to get the harness on, so Danielle, I'll have you just come lie down. So you transfer the patient into bed, and then you're gonna have, so if a patient can bridge, you're gonna have them bridge, and then you can slip the harness under them. Key right here too is making sure you're lining up that lower strap for the greater trochanter, okay?
Otherwise they roll right at the bridge.
Yes, so then the next step is, say, you know, you have a very low level patient, so go ahead and lift up again. They're gonna roll to their side, just fold this in half, kind of like what we do with the patron. And then she's gonna roll back over, we'll roll back. There we go. All right. And then do the same thing, I'm gonna hook her up. Probably could have been an hour and a half in service. Sorry, everybody.
You're doing great. I've used this way if I'm by myself and first time sitting up and getting up the patient. I've taken the whole thing to be at bedside. If all I'm doing is standing, I don't have a tech. It's a weekend. I don't have help.
To stand from the bed?
Yes, sit to stand from the bed. Yeah. Yeah. There was one time I had it at bedside. Patient did well. I'm like, okay, let's start walking. There's someone who can, yeah, it's just.